I wish I had aborted my 6-year-old Down syndrome son. It was this time 7 years ago. I got the diagnosis while pregnant. Back then I had two choices, to abort or to continue my pregnancy, and I chose to continue. It was the worst mistake I ever made. He is nonverbal still. Going to work was my saving grace, but with this virus right now I remember why I hate the life I am living. I listen to all those bullshit people in the Down syndrome group about how great life is with their kids. I wish I could turn the clock back around, ignore those people, and terminate it. For now I am trapped and no one understands. The week before my profoundly handicapped soon-to-be 3-year-old son unexpectedly passed away, I sat with my husband on the floor as I stroked my son's curls, crying, telling him that if our son lived much longer I was afraid I would commit suicide, as I felt so desperate for relief. It's a conversation I give anything to take back, since it ended up taking place 5 short days before he died alone in his bed. There seems to be this social societal expectation that when you have a severely handicapped child, you as a parent are supposed to become the superstar who is forever changed in all these amazing humbling ways. Some become disability advocates, others raise money. I remember trying to desperately begin identifying as one of those, to try to take our new situation and let it become part of me. But it just was not who I was. My son was completely total care. He could not physically support himself. When you picked him up he was total dead weight. He had to be repositioned while sleeping. He was nonverbal. His only communication was non-stop yelling when he was uncomfortable, which was often. He had a feeding tube, feedings of which he vomited frequently. His needs almost tore my marriage apart, but he also kept us together because I knew I could not do it alone. I had to leave a job I loved in order to take care of him. Something I grew resentful of because, like you says, getting that time away is a saving grace. Nobody around us realized how bad off we were, how depressed my husband and I both became. Some family would sometimes see us arguing after long periods of little sleep and bad news/updates, and instead of asking us how we were doing, we were looked down upon, condescendingly told we needed counseling. Well, we would have if there was anyone to watch our son for that hour and a half we'd be gone. We were told often by others that I could not do what you do. It angered me because I was not doing it, and those comments really minimized how difficult this parenting was. You are not alone. This is going to be the most trying part of your life. One of the struggles I had was not knowing when it would end or when I would get some relief. Since your son has Down syndrome, I would bet that there are schools that are intended for kids just like him. When I struggled with the when will this end thoughts, I looked up school options just so that I could see we had options. If you need an ear, please reach out to me. I won't judge. There is nothing you can say to me that would not be something I hadn't thought myself. This is a big burden you have undertaken. Please reach out. I'm happy to give you my phone number to reach me easily. I was where you are, and I know how most days are just survival mode. If you feel like you aren't going to survive, send me a message so we can talk it out. My younger brother has had multiple brain surgeries and now is in his teens. Nonverbal. His medical expenses are outrageous. 3 other kids in the house. I took a parenting role and it affected my entire life, including my career options because I could not be competitive enough in the field I wanted to go to while helping my family. We went the boarding school approach. It's taken the pressure off everyone. We get to see and love him, but the pressure to make sure he cared for appropriately is no longer on us. Yes, we miss him, but so much relief came from that decision. I am so sorry that you are struggling, but you aren't alone. I am sure even those parents who associate with so much passion and energy feel that frustration as well. They can just channel it into something that looks good. It's how they cope with it. Much love to you. I still hold resentment in my heart for my college days being used like a free nanny for my family. Did I mention I had to work on top of that? My parents didn't cope well either. And those on top of it parents make everyone feel shitty. I know how you feel, and I don't mean this to criticize you or anyone. I had a son who had ADHD, ODD, high-functioning autism, and dysthymia. We knew early on that something wasn't right and he was under the care of a psychiatrist from the age of 4. We struggled with him constantly. He started getting in trouble at about 12. It would have been with the law, but he was very good looking and knew how to charm his way out it. Eventually he did get into enough trouble to get sent to a boys' ranch. He did well there, came home and started refusing his meds, instead doing meth and Xanax. By the time we knew, He was 18, so we couldn't force him to go to rehab. Just before he turned 20, he got into an argument with his dad and then took his own life. It destroyed me and in a lot of ways the rest of the family, too. I guess I just want to remind parents who go through similar things that it's worth it to keep trying. Looking back, I made so many mistakes with him. I don't ever want any parent to know how I feel. Just try to hug them and remember how much you love them. Also, try to take breaks, even though I know how impossible that can be, and take care of yourselves. I feel you. I have a Down syndrome sister. I think a lot here do not understand that having someone with this disability in their family and acts loud does not mean we're not trying to control them. There's just something in their brain that really is untreatable. And really, I'm scared for my sister if none of us is there to take care of her. Like getting on accidents, leaving her alone. I'm paranoid. I feel very sad knowing that there are millions disabled out there without care and maybe being abused because they act that way. I mean, it's not their fault they were born that way. It might sound harsh, but I look at it, they are like wild animals trying to survive. Looks bad if they attack people, and you want to kill or hurt that animal, but really, it's in their nature to be wild. You just can't control it. If I were a trillionaire, I would make an enormous hospital camp sort of home for all mentally disabled from all over the world and provide care. They just really need it. Tell me about it. I am 31, autistic, and my mom is constantly saying that I have to get on other people's level and try harder to be like them. She wants me to put in all the work and will barely meet me in the middle. It is either I magically become neurotypical or she gets pissed off until I am basically screaming at her that I can do what she wants me to because my mind is and built that way. I wish people would educate themselves on conditions which cause people to be neurodiverse. I wish they had more empathy for these people who often yearn to make connections with other people but are often rejected and treated terribly because their brain is literally different to ours. It's no wonder so many of them suffer with anxiety, depression and/or suicidal thoughts because they are trying to fit in and find their way in a world that wasn't designed for them. If anyone even cares out there, it's much easier for us to change and adapt than it is for someone with, say, autism to try and adapt to be accepted by us normal people. They can't express themselves in the same way we do. They struggle to read social cues, facial expressions and body language which make conversations feel like walking through a minefield blindfolded in clown shoes. Often they are wrestling with anxiety and stress when talking to new people because people are unpredictable and can be so cruel. The latter often learned through experience, which increases the anxiety further with each interaction. Just being more patient, kind, empathetic and aware would mean the world. If it makes you feel any better. Background: my mom had my brother 49 years ago. He has Down syndrome, and this was a time when most people institutionalized Down's people, but she refused. We love him, my mom loves him, and we still take care of him. 49 years later, he is still like a 5-6-year-old, yet is a giant burden on everyone, but it's a burden we take on without complaint, because that's what you do. My mom was a special ed teacher before she retired. I have been a special education teacher for the last 2 decades. I spent a few years as a severely handicapped special ed teacher, working with severely autistic kids, Down syndrome kids, and other kids with extreme disabilities. When I see what the parents are going to deal with for the rest of their lives, or their kid's life, I get a heartbreak. These kids, some of them do nothing more than just eat, shit and sleep and will never contribute anything to their family, other than just being a giant sucking void of need, and a burden to everyone around them. It's just sad. Now, I asked my mom if she could go back. Would she have aborted my brother if they had the test back then? Her answer is yes, 100%. Back then there was no test. She loves him but she understands how much of a burden he is on everyone, and she's pushing almost 80 now and she knows it will fall on one of us soon to take full-time care of him, which again, a burden. So don't feel bad at all about this feeling. It is going to get worse as she gets older. My advice to you is seek support groups, other parents of disabled people, your family, friends. If you have it available, see if there are support groups for disabled kids around you. They can be a big help most of the time.